You too. That would be walk-up music for our next guest.
Mm-hmm.
I had suggested for her new boat, You Too might be a name, and she didn't quite jump at it.
So
So
now
I said, all right, I'm going to get back to thinking for a name for Courtney Banghart's new boat. But she's not worried about boating or sailing right now because they're dancing. The Heels are dancing, and they're heading out west. Courtney Banghart joins us. Coach, good morning. Congratulations.
To be on with you guys, as always.
All right, so we asked Jeff Walsh what he knew about Albany. What are the early returns on Stephen F. Austin for the Tar Heels?
Well, fortunately, we found out last night, so I've had a chance to watch their previous 3 games. It's a team that's won a lot of games. They love the up tempo, so they're going to pressure. They're going to play a bunch of zone. So I know enough now to be dangerous.
All right, is this a little bit of a crapshoot though? I mean, you kind of they build these brackets. You got to go. In your case, you got to go to Tucson, Arizona. But there is a little bit of name tag basketball involved here, right? I mean, you got to process a lot as a staff. Then you got to communicate that to your team. I mean, there's a little bit of hope you cover all the priorities, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you're not as familiar with the personnel and kind of their plan A as you are your league, right? And so in your league, they know you know them. I mean, I've played Virginia Tech 6 times in 2 years, so we know them really well. And we've played Stephen F. Austin 0 times in my life. So yeah, there's a little bit less familiarity, but film is a beautiful thing, and you learn very quickly what their themes are and how to attack it.
So I was watching the selection ceremonies last night, and we saw you guys celebrating and having a good time, but you knew you were in. Big picture, you tell me, NCAA. I mean, the ACC gets 8 teams in. I don't think that's a surprise. It would have been nice to get 9, but 8's a great number. But were you surprised of the 5 lines by so many ACC teams?
I was. I think you look at a lot of different factors when you're trying to figure out how to work the tournament. And one of those factors, I think, is the net, right? And that's their own evaluative tool that they created. So I think you have to sort of honor where people are in that. And Virginia Tech and us, I think, were two teams in particular that were higher in the net than I think that they paid attention to. And then when you look at how many teams, so we've got 2 number 1 teams, but yet only 2 teams hosting. With 8 teams coming in, that feels a little bit slighted as well, given the body of work. And we played that ACC Big Ten Challenge and won that very handily. And I don't know where that figured in to the brackets as well. And then the good wins and bad losses. I think there's not a lot of that on either side. So I was surprised that we didn't have an additional 1 or 2 teams hosting. And so I hope to get some answers at the end of all this.
Well, that's the other thing, too, as coaches, you got to kind of know what the cards are that are being thrown to you, right? And if you're being told, you can win with certain cards and then you play those cards only to not win, that's got to be frustrating, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when again, the evaluative tool that the NCAA determined being the net, you have to really understand what that means. It means the power of your wins versus the painful defeat, where those wins were, against who, and by how much, and so again, it's an evaluative tool that if you're going to have it that you create, you should use it, right? And then also just as a league, I think they gave great respect, as they should have, to the number 1 seeds, in both Louisville and NC State. But I'm not sure they gave enough respect to those kind of the 3 through 5 in our league. I think that Notre Dame and Virginia Tech in particular with us have shown a lot throughout the course of our year. So we all have to find a way to get to the Sweet 16 on the road. And that's a big deal in women's basketball because these traditions, Carolina's been in the tournament now 29 times, which, as you guys know, is more years than I've been alive, of course. And so, to think about these traditions, we got to find a way to win on the road is going to be a challenge.
I asked Jeff Walls the same question I'm getting ready to throw on you, Courtney. To have great success in the tournament, whether you get to the Sweet 16, whether it be the Final Four, whether it kept down the nets, you define it however you want. What must happen for North Carolina to do that?
Oh man, you gotta play both sides of the ball. You gotta understand how you need to play, right? So there's an element of execution that has to be sharp, right? There's no effort's not enough when you play against really good teams, and in March they're all really good teams. And so for our kids to really lock up and be accountable concentration-wise, that's one of the things in the quick turnarounds. and the less familiarity with each team, those are just, it takes an incredible amount of concentration. And then, clearly the better you shoot, the better you play. That's helpful as well.
Well, that was interesting because I asked him, I had been listening to some things over the last couple of days, and the advancement in the women's tournament, it seems to be more predicated on scoring than defending. So, yeah, I mean, that part of it, and he said he feels the same way, that you got to be able to score the basketball here. Do you feel
Absolutely.
along those lines as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, again, you don't get into the NCAA tournament because you've been really great offensively and your defense is kind of a sieve, right? The defensive accountability on these rosters are pretty set in stone at this point. And so it's the team that can break the other team's defense for sure. Obviously your defense is your calling card in terms of the toughness that you're going to bring. But yeah, you've got to be able to score. You got to put points on the board. And I know that all teams are focused on that side of the ball intensely over the next week.
Courtney, what did you guys do after the ACC tournament? Did you get away from it? Did you get heavier in terms of practice? You get everybody off their feet? I mean, you tell me.
Well, we ended, as you know, a little bit early. We were hoping to go into the weekend a little deeper. So we gave them the weekend off, and then we did a healthy blend of individual skill work so that we are reminded that the pieces are critical to our process. We did some situational play, which was fun against our guys. And we did some scrimmaging so that we kept our cardio and our reaction times appropriate. We did some small time themes. So we kind of did a mix of things. I got an additional day off, but we got away a little bit, didn't watch as much film as we have all year to kind of give them a break there. But you don't want to get too far away from your priorities and what you're doing so that you don't have to kind of go in out all year.
Is there a sense of kind of, hey, we got to remember this is a long trip this week? I mean, you're going to Tucson. It's not around the corner. You're going out there. You're going to play a team that you're seeing for the first time. As you mentioned, not only are you seeing it, you're seeing it for the first time as well as your players are. Mm-hmm. And yet this is a tournament environment. And I know how you think about logistics and team building things. Are there some different things you have to do this week because of what this is?
Well, you first have to find out when you're leaving, which is something that we won't know until a little bit later today. It's hard to build out your week when you don't know that. So we'll start with that, with more information. And then, we know that we're playing, as is the case all year, we're playing with a team that's more experienced than us. That story's been well told, right? And so we have to kind of own our inexperience and be even more focused and concentrated on what we're doing. But I'm grateful to our league. I think our league has prepared us well. There's so many good coaches, so many good teams, so many good styles that when you're playing, when you've beaten Louisville at home and you've gone on the road and beaten good teams in front of packed houses and stuff, like, we feel like our league has given us a great opportunity here.
Courtney, Jeff mentioned that while it is a long, tiresome road, this is a grind, a basketball season, and you go through highs and lows like everybody else does. There's a sense of enthusiasm and kind of a reboot once you get to this stage, especially with a team that's in the NCAA tournament. Do you get the same sense with your team last week and maybe even more so last night? When all of a sudden you see North Carolina, 5 seed, we're going to Tucson, a sense of enthusiasm of, hey, all right, let's do it. We're back to it's like rolling the ball out for the first time for a season.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think this is my 10th tournament since I've been in this thing. And I have to tell you, I promise you, every single one is special. The day that I get that I get tired of hearing my name is the day I will hand in my resignation. And this is seeing your name and knowing your body of work has been rewarded, and you're in kind of the premier sport event. I think for all of college athletics, especially for women, that's just, it's a powerful moment, and it's earned, right? And so yeah, this feels. You go home at night and you sort of say, all right, back to work. So yeah, you're right on there. This is as special as it is for the fans, which I know is, for any sports fan, this is kind of the meat of it. It's the same for the programs that are involved.
Courtney, I want to ask you about this as someone who has coached at different places, but also understands the evolution of the sport on the national scale. We heard last night from both Dan Gavitt and Lynn Holtzman about all the things that will change with this tournament this year on the women's side. As a head coach of a prominent program at a Power 5 level, what do you anticipate those changes to be, and what do you think that experience will produce?
Well, I think first off, just the branding and marketing has already been noticed, right? To be able to call it March Madness, there are plenty of people in my life who are more removed from it than me that say, why is it just, they were surprised that we hadn't ever been March Madness before. I think having 68 teams, having the play-in game, these are things that are immediate, and they were easy to do, and sure, it should have happened sooner, but they were immediate. And then there are other things that take a little bit more time, and I know that progress is important, and to celebrate where you are is important, but same too to keep fighting. So there's a couple more things that need to be adjusted and kind of updated. But yeah, I think just the feel of that. Obviously, some of the things that we've been told are going to change, we won't know until we're there. We won't. We really won't. But I've got no other choice but to trust that the people making those decisions made the right ones, and that the immediacy of it will be felt.
Let me ask you, if you don't mind sharing, what are the next one or two things you want to see changed that have not been changed yet?
Well, I think we have to look at what the reward is for the institutions. I know on the men's side, there's these units that are really valuable, right? And so I know when the argument is maybe, well, they're coming from the same pot, and so, but I just don't agree. I think if for our athletic department, if us advancing in the NCAA tournament brings a financial reward, there's an added level of importance for that. Right, and so I think figuring out what the reward is financially for the teams that accelerate in the tournament, I think, is an important one. Right, I also think the being able to, once we get the TV package, once that kind of is a chance to, once that comes up, allowing us to stand as a standalone. So it's not kind of lumped into the men's side, and so whether it's your times or other things, I think this product, and I'm proud to say it wasn't always this case, but I think right now the product is strong enough and marketable enough to stand alone in that way. And so when these contracts come up and we get a chance to regroup on it, I think letting it be that way. And then the sponsorship. We have to have a revenue stream, and revenue is directly tied to value. And I think, again, this is a standalone value now that wasn't the case 10 years ago. And so we have to be able to allow sponsorships to come in and support the women and not have to first support the men in order to support the women. So those are bigger. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you're right. It's interesting you bring that up because I think that's an excellent point. It is estimated, it's been reported this morning that the revenue distribution on the men's side, I think, is $625 million this year.
Yeah.
So it's an enormous amount. And by the way, that is significantly up from the $246 million it sent to schools after the pandemic. So there you go.
Well, here's the $1 million question. You ready?
Oh, no. I'm never ready for you, but I fake it well. Yeah, what do you got?
I seem to connect with you. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the bourbon thing or now you got this boat thing going on. Again, we can talk ball all day, but I like talking to you.
Oh, boy.
Here's what I want to know. I mean, you're playing Saturday night at 7:30. I want to know, you're going to Tucson. That's a road trip. What happens to Pajama Day? How are we going to incorporate that this week? How's that going to work?
Yeah.
So for those that weren't watching, unfortunately, when we played in the ACC tournament, I could barely talk my 7-year-old to coming because he wanted to. He didn't want to miss Pajama Day at school. Once we found out Arizona, he ran over at the selection show and said, "Mom, we're going to Arizona. Are you going to come?" So I think this is the year where this is the tournament I hope that my family will invite me to because I guess the location it passes the bill.
I love it.
Are you going to be able to go to Arizona? You got to love the innocence of the whole deal, don't you? I mean,
totally.
It really does put in perspective.
He really hopes I can make it. Yeah, he hopes I can go with him. So.
You know what, though, Coach? In some respects, it really does put it in perspective, right? I mean, you're under a lot of pressure to win like every other coach and to perform. Yeah. But an answer like that is one of those you can take a deep breath and go, you know what? Life's pretty good.
Yep.
You know what? We're in a pretty good spot.
You're exactly right. To be a mom or to be a parent in any business is a challenge, right? You never feel like you're enough. The way that Carolina has allowed my family to be embedded in the journey has been helpful. But yeah, my kids really care about whether it's Pajama Day or where the location of our games are. So they keep it real for me.
I love it. Well, listen, congratulations again on all your success and stay healthy and hopefully it's a long, deep run for the Heels.
I really appreciate all you guys do. Thanks a lot.